Hi, my name is Samantha Messer, and I'm doing my discussion post 3, and we're going to talk about responsibility centers today. So to go ahead and get started, just a quick reference, other than the Bible, we'll be using the Baker & Baker Healthcare and Finance textbook as a reference to answer the following questions. So the first question is how responsibility centers are beneficial to healthcare organizations. So first, starting off, we're going to just talk about what they are to begin with. So basically, according to the text, responsibility centers make the manager responsible for both the revenue, basically the inflow and the outflow, the revenue and the expenses side of the department, division, unit, and or program. The manager is also responsible for growing revenue and controlling costs. That's really what they want to see the manager do, is basically balance between the two, being able to keep track of what's coming in and what's going out and control those costs, and potentially every year just get better at them and minimize them. A responsibility center, according to the text, is also called a profit center, which would make sense considering they're discussing a lot of revenues. The support center, which was also mentioned in the text, just handles the expenses. So there is a little bit of a difference between the two. So one of the benefits to a responsibility center is that it's going to help the organization stay on top of things. So just like anything else, this is somebody who's really responsible for budgeting and keeping track of all the finances for the organization. So obviously that's going to translate into a more successful company. And they're also going to just kind of, other than that, just mainly budgeting and keeping track of the income and outcome, basically just helping the organization to see the big picture and understanding not only when the money's coming in and coming out, but exactly where it's being allocated and how it's being handled throughout the different departments as well. So kind of the next question deals with the components of the responsibility centers. So according to the text, they obviously need revenue. They need some kind of income to talk about, and they need expenses and outcome. And then they're going to need managers that kind of just, according to the example in the text, I think it was West Side Health Center, they had 4 different managers. So there might be support center manager, responsibility center manager, there might be multiple responsibility center managers, and they're going to be different components of the main responsibility center, if that makes sense. So, and basically they're just making sure that everything is running smoothly. To kind of cover the last question as far as breakdown analysis goes, yes, it is going to be very helpful, especially for me. Specifically, I'm trying to get into long-term care. So if I were to be an assisted living facility director, this would be extremely helpful for me because I'm going to need to be able to organize budgets and keep track of income, revenue in other words, and outcome expenses. Benefits to this would be improving spending habits in the organization. That's, I think, kind of the goal as far as budgeting goes, just making sure that you're aware and you understand where all the money is going, and then how can we make this better and how can we improve, and here are places where we could cut down spending costs. Another thing that I think would be a really huge benefit, it would be employee incentives. I think company morale, employee morale is huge, especially in healthcare, and making sure that everybody's kind of on board with what's going on. So I think that having incentives for employees, as far as like if you have extra revenue somehow because you've cut down on your spending and so your revenue increases, creating incentives for the employees. So something for them to work towards, a goal for them to be better about spending, because otherwise I guess they wouldn't really care too much if it doesn't have anything to do with them. So I think that would be a really huge benefit. Just kind of to wrap things up with a biblical perspective, for me, Romans 12:2 kind of sticks out. It doesn't necessarily have to do exactly with finance and budgeting and being smart there, but it says, "Don't be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, and what is good and acceptable and perfect." This verse to me, I think, is really relevant to what we're talking about as far as not conforming and not just being kind of going with the flow with everything, but really trying to, step foot in healthcare and get into an organization and actually make a difference and actually not conform to, well, this is just what they've been doing and it's been working, but, always be thinking of how we can make things better and trying to improve money and creating those incentives for the employees, like I spoke about. And yeah, so I just really think that that's kind of a verse that stuck out to me and something that just kind of reminds us to really consider what God's will really is, and kind of try and abide by that and follow that. All right, thank you. That's all I have.